Okay, let's talk about Liz Truss. So let's go and put this up there on the screen. Last night, the news broke. British Conservative Party members have chosen Miss Truss, the quote, hawkish foreign secretary, over Rishi Sunak, who is the Chancellor of the Exchequer. She will take over the country in a quote, serious economic crisis. And from what we have seen this morning, our time, Miss Truss went over to Balmoral Castle in Scotland and officially was, I forget the exact process, but having watched The Crown, I know it's something involves kissing the hand and becoming the leader of Her Majesty's government. So Boris Johnson has, I believe, resigned at this point in the show, gave a speech, a farewell speech, warning about the economic crisis, about the problems ahead. Liz Truss, having been the foreign secretary under Johnson and having been intimately involved in Ukraine policy, that's probably what matters the most for our purposes. Now, don't have to take a genius. When even the New York Times is describing you as the, quote, hawkish foreign secretary, in general, we're going to see a continuation of UK policy. Maybe they can ship some weapons over to Ukraine under this government instead of bailing out their own businesses. However, more importantly, again, is that the posture of the UK government, which there were possibilities of change in terms of some of the other candidates who are up for grabs, really has not changed at all in terms of how the Anglosphere will be presenting itself and towards the conflict with Russia. Michael Tracy found this insane portion of a Q&A with Liz Truss about her willingness to use nuclear weapons. We forget that, Britain is, of course, a nuclear-armed power. Here's what she had to say.
Now, look, here's another question. One of the first things, and very briefly if I could, one of the first things that will happen when and if you become Prime Minister, you'll be ushered into a room, very privately at number 10. Will be laid out in front of you what are called the letters of last resort, your orders to our Trident boat captain on whether you, Prime Minister Liz Truss, is giving the order to unleash our nuclear weapons. It would mean global annihilation. I won't ask you, would you press the button? You will say yes. But faced with that task, I would feel physically sick. How does that thought make you feel?
I think it's an important duty of the Prime Minister. I'm ready to do that.
I asked how it would make you feel.
I'm ready to do it.
Okay, that's your answer. Liz Truss, thank you for those answers. Ladies and gentlemen, Liz Truss.
I mean, I would just hope for a little bit more empathy or it's the most solemn responsibility a leader can have. Of course, in the defense of our nation, even I could give a better answer than that. It's like
we would do everything we possibly could to avoid
but of course,
nuclear annihilation.
As the leader of the UK, I would do everything to defend our homeland, and only in the defense of our most horrific times would we even consider
if I'm Prime
that
Minister,
option.
we will never get to that place.
Yeah, great. Yeah,
whatever.
It's like we can vote, come up with it.
But also, what a weird question.
Strange question. British media is
I know you do it. How would you feel about it? What?
The way that they question their politicians over there is insane. Also, their laws are nuts, in terms of, they have this whole thing where you can basically, if you have enough complaints against you, the government can investigate you, Oxfam or whatever it's called. I remember this whole thing whenever the Piers Morgan, Meghan Markle thing was going down. So anyway, sorry UK, you actually don't have nearly enough of a free press as we do, even though they're gonna protest.
I'm also just gonna say this, and y'all can call me sexist or whatever, but there is a problem with these neoliberal type women wanting to prove that they're as tough and as
Hillary,
hawkish neocons. It is. It's Hillary. I mean, you see it. There's a pattern of this. They gotta prove that they're as warmongering as the dudes. And so I think that's also part of what you see there. And she's been extremely hawkish in her language when it comes to Ukraine as well. So listen, I mean, we shouldn't delude ourselves that the war that is going on in Ukraine started by Russia, no doubt about it, but we have fully joined as a proxy partner here, and the UK has been our primary backup and support. They have been our ally in the way that we want to prosecute that war. France and Germany wanted a different approach. They were much more in favor of diplomacy. Macron, of course, was on the phone constantly with Putin, trying to keep them at the table, and we and the UK blew it up. So no doubt about it that she is going to continue to be a full partner in whatever it is that Biden wants to do with regards to this war.
Here's what she said in March, quote, Putin must lose in Ukraine as the Foreign Secretary of the UK, making it very clear here what the posture will be. In fact, people are saying that she could not only double down, but increase British support to Ukraine. And here's my thing, in terms of their positions and all of that. You can have position whatever you want, but then you need to pony up and you need to be a major actor in the conflict. And they're not. And let's be honest. I mean, they are, if anything, some sort of client state of ours. Johnson going over there, I don't know if it was on his own behalf or on ours. I don't know what those conversations look like. I'd be willing to bet there probably was some input on our side. We just seem to be taking this very odd, backseat but also interventionist policy, which is the worst of all worlds, right? Which is that you're basically writing a blank check to a foreign government. No foreign government is ever going to act purely on your interests. And then we don't seem to be really taking any steps in the other direction. And then we're letting these Euros basically sit on their hands and do nothing, bailing out their own people. And we're supposedly stepping up and doing all of the military assistance. I mean, if it's so important to you that you're willing to spend, in France, Germany, and Britain's case, hundreds of billions of euros or pounds, then you would want to see some sort of requisite step up. If it's so existential, then you do something in Ukraine as well. And yet,
I don't see them as the ones driving the train here at all. Like I said, they wanted a different approach, and we basically were like, no.
Well, the UK is
having
having the same approach,
right?
Oh,
absolutely.
So it's very hypocritical on their part.
100%. Yeah. Well, and she says she wants to increase their defense budget.
Well, then do it, and then we can send less.
So I think, she's happy to go even further in terms of hawkishness than Boris Johnson. So ultimately, probably very much the status quo prevailing here, both in terms of economic ideology, also in terms of foreign affairs ideology. Nothing much appears to have changed.
That's right.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.